Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock, let's go over the market, let's talk about what is happening, what we can expect moving forward, and all that good stuff. So as per usual, if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice and I am not a financial advisor, but of course I do have a YouTube membership if you're interested, where I'm constantly, sharing thoughts, posts, updates, etc. with members down there. Throughout the day, right, as the market is trading. And yeah, so if you're interested, that link is down below. And again, it's pretty cheap, right? It's just $3 a month for the first tier, which is of course the Tesla tier, which includes Tesla, options flow, technical analysis, chart updates constantly throughout the day when there's something worth sharing, of course. $5 a month adds NVDA to that if you're interested. And then $7 adds non-Tesla, non-NVDA stocks to that if you're interested in those as well, when I share opportunities in those other stocks, if you will, in the market, when I see something worth sharing. And over the weekend, we do chart requests with members. But jumping into it, Tesla closing the day down actually 0.72% on the day, closing just above $319 per share. And now the question, of course, goes, well, okay, what's next, right? Is the stock going to go up? Is it going to go down? What's going to be expected? What's not to be expected? All that kind of stuff. Well, let's start off with the 1 hour chart, right? Netflix actually just reported earnings. Let me quickly, if you don't mind, guys, sorry, give me one quick second. Netflix. Hey, it's a beat as usual. Let's see if the stock reacts positively. One of my favorite stocks, Netflix. Love the stock and the company. Anyways, Tesla. So, it's in this kind of, 1 hour little mini, smaller downward channel, or in other words, a bull flag, right? So I talked about this yesterday. I mentioned how, we could reject either, in my opinion, 325 or 330 will be my two targets to the upside before a rejection, and we most likely start cooling off a little bit. 325 seems to be that level now, right? We got pretty much just shy of it, right? We got to like 324 and a half roughly today. So, and it got pretty close to that. So let's see how this actually plays out moving forward. But so far you can see we're kind of in this sort of, descending channel / bull flaggy type situation right now. And we could go lower, we can consolidate here, and there's a damn good chance that even tomorrow, not a whole lot happens, right? There's a massive call wall. If let me quickly open it up. Actually, I should have opened this up just in case, but go here, open this up, boom, right? There's a nice little call wall, sitting right here close to 320. So in other words, I wouldn't be surprised if the market makers make Tesla close as pretty close to 320, probably slightly below it, so that those calls don't actually end the week in the money. Max pain is closer to 310. So in other words, all this means is that I wouldn't be surprised if Tesla tomorrow doesn't really do a whole lot. Pretty boring day, pretty sideways day, in my opinion, at least. We'll see, you never know for sure, but essentially dances around sort of 320 and then probably ends around like 318, 319, something like that. That's my current expectation, of course. But overall, moving into next week and as we approach earnings, right, I do believe Tesla is setting up pretty bullishly going into earnings. Now, obviously, post earnings is, it's anyone's guess. I mean, who the hell knows how that's going to go, of course. But going into earnings, I actually think it's setting up kind of nicely, kind of like what it did here. Nice little, bull flaggy type setup. You can argue this is a kind of a similar situation where, it's in this downward channel. And, like I said, we can go a little bit lower. We can see a little bit lower levels. We can still go to like 316, 315 even, right? We could still see those lower levels as we continue sort of consolidating within this sort of vicinity like this. And then I think from there, as long as we don't lose 315, if you're a little more conservative, but around 313, if, you're giving a little bit more breathing room. But as long as we don't lose essentially around here or here, let me remove this so it's a little bit cleaner. Pretty much around here-ish or around here. So pretty much around this kind of vicinity right around here. As long as this isn't really lost, I do view Tesla setting up in a nice little bullish continuation pattern, and then we most likely explode back upwards. And at this point, we can easily see closer to maybe even 330 itself going into earnings. That is a very real possibility. Now, obviously, it just depends on how quick this actually plays out, how quick all this actually happens, right? But that's kind of my current expectation right now. I do think the chart actually does look pretty decent. I don't see any major concerns overall. But again, if we lose 313 to 315, it's a bit of a different conversation now, isn't it? But again, we're not there. So let's see. Also, yesterday I mentioned how the SMI on the 1 hour was a little bit overextended. You can see it's now cooling off, and if we cool off even further tomorrow, that'll probably bring it back down to the bottom range, and in a very kind of consolidation type environment, this thing is pretty damn good, especially on the 1 hour. It's actually pretty decent when it gets to the top and the bottom ranges. That usually marks short-term tops or bottoms while it's sort of consolidating, which is what we are in right now, right? Like I said, on the daily, if I go to the daily, we are in this very, very large pennant and essentially consolidating. And as we get closer and closer to the sort of the apex, if you will, of this pennant, the consolidation range can get tighter. And the thing you have to understand is also there's a very real possibility that even after earnings, let's say we come into earnings and the stock is around, I don't know, let's just say 327 or something, right? There's a very good chance that even earnings isn't as big of a move as people may expect. overall. And I say that overall because, again, we're still within this pennant. So, it can go as high as maybe like 340, but it can probably go as low as maybe 300, but probably not too much more below or above that, give or take, of course, right? Which, if that is the case from here, that'll be another move of about 5% or so upwards, but potentially, 7% downwards. That's a decent amount. But the point I'm just trying to make is the fact that we're still stuck within this pennant. So until we actually escape this pennant, until we actually get the hell out of this pennant and break out one way or the other, whether it's to the upside like this or to the downside like this, we're not going to see a true movement for the stock. And like I said many times, if we break to the upside, I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see about 400. To the downside, if we break it below the pennant, closer to 240 definitely is a very real possibility if we break to the downside like that. So that's kind of what I'm expecting there. What else is there to talk about? The MACD is actually getting close to getting a nice bullish crossover. That could be a very nice positive sign. So let's see if we can finally get that, right? That'll probably take a few more days. Might even wait until earnings potentially, but we'll watch it day by day, see if anything changes, if any nice flippage, if you will, happens over there. But yeah, all in all, the daily chart, zooming in on it over here, we have the exponential moving averages, which are looking all pretty solid. We had a pretty potentially concerning sign down here if we didn't recover fast enough, but we did. And the good thing is, and the reason why I'm thinking the chart, at least right now, as long as we hold 313 to 315, is looking kind of bullish or somewhere like this, is two reasons. Number one, this is a nice, I like the strength of the move up, but more importantly, I like the strength of the move up while breaking this high that we set here to avoid a potential lower low, lower high type scenario, right? We set a fresh higher high, breaking this high here, which to me is good. That is a good sign for me personally. So that's why, I start viewing the chart in more of a bullish pattern. And on top of that, that's the first point. The second point is the fact that we never actually let the exponential moving averages get a full bearish crossover to the downside, because the 21 never crossed the 50. It was pretty close, but it didn't cross it. So the bulls ended up coming in pretty much right where they needed to. So that was a close call, but hey, the bulls saved it when they needed to. So, so far, nothing really too concerning in my opinion, which is why, again, I have that kind of more short-term, at least into earnings, slightly more bullish perspective, at least as of right now, potentially back up to about 330, best case scenario, 340, depending on, how far up we get. But I feel like I'm just yapping, I'll be honest. Hopefully that all makes sense. There's not that much more to talk about. We have the 4-hour SMI getting closer to the upper range. So if we get a nice little consolidation, this should reset. And then we can potentially get one more move up as we get up to here around 330. And that will start giving me potentially some warning signals, especially as we approach the upper end of this potential trend line here that could act as a resistance, can absolutely reject the stock. And like I said, as long as we're within this pennant, if we ever get to the top, well, as of right now, we expect rejection, get to the bottom, we expect support, and we expect consolidation and kind of a ping pong match, if you will, until we get an actual breakout in one of the directions, which, when it happens, my members will, of course, be the first to know, but naturally I'll speak it, and I'll mention it in the video if I see something that's worth mentioning in terms of an actual breakout that looks good to me. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I don't think there's that much more to talk about, I'll be honest. I think that's the majority of what I wanted to say. That's the 1 hour, that's the daily. The daily's, it's looking more and more promising. Could see a little bit more weakness, a little more consolidation, but yeah, it's not looking too shabby. I think it's setting up kind of nicely for a move to 330. So next week into earnings. I think that's pretty much it. There's not much more to talk about, to be completely honest with you. So yeah, looking at options still very quickly here. Yeah, pretty slow day today for Tesla stock, to be completely honest with you, which explains why that stock, it's kind of boring today, might even be boring tomorrow, but pretty slow day today for Tesla stock. Very mixed overall. Bulls in the slight lead, but not by a whole lot. So very nice, slow, boring, kind of premium sucking day. I have cash secured puts expiring tomorrow, so I like these days. I'm okay with it. I'm not complaining too much, to be completely honest with you. But yeah, that's kind of all I got for you guys. So let me know what you think below. Another example on how I think this can look like, but on a smaller scale, it's kind of like here where we had this nice impulsive move up, if you will, right? Kind of flagging into the exponential moving averages, and then we moved higher. Kind of the same thing. Kind of the same thing as what I see, just a little smaller, a little more contained, if you will, a little less volatile, a little less aggressive, but structurally similar idea. But anyways, yeah, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Peace.